Welcome to the 15th episode of Anycast. This is my podcast on YouTube where I talk about anything that's going on, primarily sports, and there's a lot to dive into on the sports side of things. But before we go any further, I want to send my thoughts and prayers to President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. As all of you have probably heard by now, Donald and Melania Trump had tested positive for COVID-19 early Friday morning. And Trump has been in the hospital since then. He's doing fine from what I've heard, and he's posted videos on his Twitter page. It sounds like he's in good spirit. He sounds like he's going to get better. Obviously, it's a wait-and-see type deal, but it sounds like everyone's cautiously optimistic that Trump is going to be okay. So that's obviously excellent news because even Trump doesn't deserve to have to put up with COVID. But I do hope that this is a wake-up call to those who have not taken the pandemic seriously, because no one is immune to this. If you need proof of this, the leader of the free world tested positive for COVID-19. He's not immune to it. And if he's not immune to it, nobody is. I think this is a huge wake-up call. You hate to have this be the wake-up call, but this is a wake-up call. But again, it is good to hear that Trump is feeling better. I hope he continues to do well. Doctors are taking good care of him from what I've heard. So please continue to send your thoughts and prayers to Donald and Melania Trump and hope that they can make a speedy recovery. Now, before we go into the sports, while we're on the subject of Trump, as probably most of you watched last Tuesday, he, prior to testing positive for the virus, was in the first presidential debate with Joe Biden. And let's just say it was a zoo. A train wreck in a zoo with a bunch of wild animals. It was a little bit out of control, and even before Trump tested positive for the pandemic, many were wondering, is there going to be a point to having the remaining two debates go on because of what unfolded on Tuesday? I mean, there was constant interrupting, there's bickering on both sides, and Chris Wallace, I give him props for just trying to get the situation under control. He knew he was walking into a lion's den there, and for what it's worth, I think he did an admirable job trying to get this debate under control. If you want to give a slight edge to anybody, because quite frankly, I don't think anybody won. The real losers were the undecided voters who were wanting to hear the candidates' thoughts and see what their frame of minds are. And quite frankly, we didn't quite get that. So the real losers were the undecided voters. If you have to lean on a winner, I guess Biden kind of won. I don't know. Quite frankly, nobody won in that debate. But now I'm uncertain if we're going to have another debate because of what's unfolded with Trump and the virus. Obviously, you want to hope he does well, and it sounds like he is. But once he does get better, is there going to be a point to doing those other two debates? Can we get a controlled environment that will allow the undecided voters to hear the campaigns and get their thoughts in? That remains to be seen. As it stands right now, the vice presidential debate is still going on, and that will be this week, so definitely stay tuned for that. Now, let's move on to the sports, because there's a lot going on in the sports world. We have had college football. We have had the NFL. And by golly, is there a bunch of craziness going on over there, especially with college football. I think the Big 12 have pretty much shot down their playoff hopes, and the Big 10 and the Pac-12, who will be playing this year finally, they haven't even gotten started yet, and the Big 12's already killed their playoff chances. That's because in the last 2 weeks, Oklahoma's lost to Kansas State and Iowa State, teams that lost the week before in their openers to Arkansas State and Louisiana Lafayette. Yeah, and they both beat OU in consecutive weeks. Meanwhile, Texas dodged a bullet against Texas Tech, then proceeds to lose to TCU yesterday. And those two are going to be going into the Red River rivalry. So I think you could stick a fork in them, especially considering your only remaining undefeated team in the Big 12 is Oklahoma State. And if you saw them against Tulsa, there's some question marks on this team. they've looked a little bit better since then, but I'm not sure if pummeling West Virginia and Kansas is going to prove to anyone that you are legit. And with the losses suffered by OU and Texas, I think that really hurts Oklahoma State's chances. This could very well be the year, perhaps, that a group of 5 team makes a run at the playoffs. Because quite frankly, the Big 12 does not deserve to get in. If you've seen them play in the playoffs, every time they get in, not only do they lose, they have a lackluster performance. They are not as great as the SEC. They are not as great as Clemson. They are not as great as the Big 10. The Big 12 does not deserve to have a playoff team. That conference is nothing but high-scoring games, which is great for the viewers, not so great for the quality of play, because there's no defense in this conference. And so I think you could stick a fork in the Big 12. Teams that were surprising, well, Mississippi State looked very impressive against the defending champs, then laid an egg against Arkansas. That's right. If you saw Arkansas's schedule, in fact, I'm going to pop open the Arkansas schedule right now. Let's take a look at that Arkansas schedule and just see what the Murderers Row schedule was for them. Going through it right now. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah. Georgia, Mississippi State, Auburn, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, Mizzou, and then they finish up with Bama. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, please raise your hand if you thought Arkansas with that schedule was going to go winless. And if you had placed a poll as to if and when Arkansas would get their first win and you thought Mississippi State, well, congratulations, you're going to win a ton of money because Mississippi State winds up being the team that loses to Arkansas. That is absolutely embarrassing. How in the world do you lose to Arkansas? They are a dumpster fire team. So, yeah, I think Mississippi State's going to be plummeting out of the rankings in a heartbeat. Which, by the way, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, you probably saw that they got dumped out of the rankings when their conferences announced that they weren't playing. Well, now that they're back in, they got to be back in the rankings. However, they didn't get their preseason rankings back. I find it hard to believe because the SEC schools that had not played for 2 weeks prior to the end of September got to keep their rankings. I think the Big Ten and the Pac-12 teams that were ranked should get their rankings back. I'm not saying this because Minnesota is not ranked, although they probably will be now because of all the chaos that's unfolded in front of them. But I think that should be fair. But the bottom line is, this is going to be a crazy season for college football if we can keep it going. And so far, the NFL has not disappointed yet. By the way, speaking of NFL, my fantasy team is 3-0 right now. Yay me. But that's besides the point. We have 7 remaining undefeated teams. Your usual suspects, the Chiefs are in the hunt. The Packers are in the hunt. The Seahawks are in the hunt. You have the Steelers who are a bit of a surprise at 3-0. You have the Titans who are 3-0. You have the Bills, who I guess is a little bit of a surprise at 3-0. Then there's the Bears. How in the world are the Bears 3-0? They were down by double digits in the fourth quarter in 2 of those games. And then in the other game where they actually had a lead in the fourth quarter, had to hold off the Giants without Saquon Barkley, who then proceeded to get dumped by the Niners JV team. I mean, how in the world are the Bears undefeated right now? I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Just not sum up 2020 in a nutshell. The Bears should be winless, and yet here they sit 3-0, tied with the Packers for first in the NFC North. Which makes me believe Green Bay is going to run away with this division eventually. Not at the moment because the Bears keep winning, but they're going to win the division. And the Patriots look really, really good with Cam Newton. Even in the loss to Seattle, they look pretty impressive. Now, this week, they finally caught up to the coronavirus stuff. As you probably have heard, there are now 2 games this week that have been postponed as a result of outbreaks. One outbreak and the other had players test positive. Titans have had a major outbreak, and it continues to be a problem, resulting in their game against the Steelers to get postponed until week 7. So now both are going to get their byes this week. The problem for the Titans is, I mentioned they keep getting outbreaks, they keep getting more positive tests. Now their game against the Bills next week is in jeopardy. They've become the Marlins of baseball. And I'm going to get to the Marlins in just a second, but I'm going to stick with the NFL here. This is going to put this is what the NFL feared was going to happen. And this is what I knew was going to happen because of what happened with the MLB and their outbreaks. The NFL was going to follow the same strategy as the MLB. Well, guess what? The MLB had 2 teams with outbreaks, and this is a non-contact sport. The NFL is a contact sport. It's easier to get the virus that way or spread the virus that way. And the Titans have now had an outbreak that has impacted the Steelers, it could potentially impact the Bills, and in a way has impacted the Ravens too, because now the Ravens have to adjust their bye week to accommodate with the Steelers adjusting because of the Titans adjusting. So you see this domino effect that's taking place? Sound familiar? Because this is exactly what happened in the MLB before they decided to do the postseason bubble. And then the Patriots and the Chiefs also are postponed, although it looks like that may still play. They may still play this week. It's either going to be tomorrow or Tuesday, provided there are no additional positive tests. It sounds like they're in good shape right now, but we shall see. Now moving on to baseball. I mentioned the Marlins. Remember them, and they had to deal with the outbreak, and they're the domino effect that started this whole, there's no way the MLB's going to survive the season. Well, they did get through the season, and when you know it, the Miami Marlins not only made the playoffs, they swept the Cubs in the wild card series. I kid you not. I swear, every time the Marlins make the playoffs, they win the World Series. Don't believe me? Look at their history. 97, made the playoffs, won the World Series. 2003, made the playoffs, won the World Series. Those are the only other 2 times they made the playoffs. So I'm telling you, it's going to happen. I don't know how, I don't know what, but it's going to happen. And wouldn't that sum up 2020 in a nutshell? If the Marlins, who had an outbreak, comes back from this and wins the World Series. Can you imagine that story? I'm telling you, Mattingly is going to win Manager of the Year. Remember, this team lost 105 games last year. This was a dumpster fire team. They come from that to the pandemic, to the outbreak, to make the playoffs, and then win a series against the Cubs. I mean, this is absolutely mind-boggling. If this did not sum up 2020, I don't know what will. But the Marlins advanced. Other teams that advanced. Padres, although they had to go into a deciding game 3 against the Cardinals, who, as always, were a tough out. The Dodgers, to no one's shock. The Braves, to no one's shock. And then on the AL side, Yankees absolutely destroyed the Indians and Bieber. So they're advancing. The Astros somehow, some way, were able to advance against the Twins, and I swear it's become a roadblock for my team. I feel like Christopher Mad Dog Russo. If you are on YouTube, there's a clip of him going nuts after the Giants got eliminated by the Marlins in 2003. Since then, they've won 3 World Series titles, but at the time, they had gone through this long stretch where they hadn't even won the World Series, and they just couldn't. It seemed like they were destined to lose. Well, that's my team. They can't even win a stinking playoff game. One lousy playoff game. That's all I ask for them. One win. That's it. And this center could not have been set up beautifully for the Twins. You've got home field advantage in a wild card series. You've got an Astros team that's a shell of their former selves. Granted, they're still the defending AL champs until otherwise, but they're not the same team. Their offense has been hit and miss. They have no pitching other than Greinke because Verlander is done. Garrett Cole went to the Yankees. You basically have Greinke, and that's it. This was a perfect setup for the Twins to finally get over that mental roadblock, and they still can't win a playoff game, much less a series. I'm telling you, this team is cursed. This is the most cursed team in the MLB now. I can say that because the Cubs have ended their curse. The White Sox have ended their curse. The Red Sox ended their curse. The Twins are flipping cursed. And the Dodgers are cursed until proven otherwise. But the Twins are cursed. They can't even win a playoff game. At least the Dodgers can win series, even though they haven't won a World Series in 30 plus years. The Twins can't even win a playoff game. And you had the perfect setup. So I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, this is a team that's got a ton of questions in the offseason, and that's assuming we go back to normalcy in 2021. But I'm done. I'm done ranting about that. Let's move on to the other team. So, Yankees advance, Astros advance. The A's had to go to a deciding game 3 with the White Sox, but they advanced it. Oh, by the way, how about the AL Central? They had 3 of the best teams in the American League. None of them got out of the wild card series. How about that? And the White Sox got the one playoff win of those 3 teams. Who could have predicted that? No, really, who could have predicted that? Oh, yeah, and Tampa had no trouble against Toronto. So I think you know what's crazy about this? I mean, the Astros are going to get the A's, and I think Oakland's going to take out Houston. That Yankees-Rays series is going to be very, very, very interesting. I think the Yankees, if they can bash the Indians like they did, I think they have a puncher's chance against Tampa. I think the winner of the Rays-Yankees series is going to represent the American League in the World Series. Realistically, I believe that the Dodgers may, and I say may, get to the World Series, but knowing their past, I don't know if I can believe that. I have more faith in the Marlins making the World Series at this point than the Dodgers do. Called it a hunch. I just feel like that's going to happen. I swear, the Marlins are going to win the World Series. We're going to have a Marlins-Rays World Series, and wouldn't that be ironic? The 2 Florida teams, 2 teams that play in a state that at one point was the epicenter of the pandemic, could potentially duke it out for the World Series. I don't think anybody could have predicted that, and that would totally sum up 2020 in a nutshell. But I digress. Speaking of Florida, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning for winning the Stanley Cup. I'm telling you, this is the closest thing to what Virginia did when they won the national championship. For those who've forgotten, because 2019 seems like eons ago because of what's unfolded this year, Virginia won the national championship 1 year after being the first number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. I say it's eons ago because we did not have a tournament this year. And the Lightning, if you remember, last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs, won 62 games, won the President's Trophy. They were the clear-cut favorite, the runaway favorite, the landslide favorite to win the Cup and hoist it last year, before getting swept out of the first round by the Blue Jackets, who had never won a playoff series before this one. And so the Lightning come back this year, and they win the Stanley Cup. They were able to take out the Dallas Stars, who represented the Western Conference as well as they could, but obviously no match for Tampa. So congratulations to the Lightning. I'm sure that this will be a happy sight for Floridians. At least you got to celebrate a title this year. I know that state's had some tough times because of the pandemic, and they were the epicenter. But at least they get to have some happiness and have one thing to be proud of for 2020. As well as their baseball teams going to the playoffs and both advancing. As strange as it is, Florida's having a good year in sports. I know as a whole it's been a rough year because of the pandemic. But this is why we have sports. A diversion to get us away from reality. And look what the Florida teams have done. The Lightning win the Stanley Cup. The Rays and the Marlins are in the playoffs. The Heat are in the NBA Finals. The Bucks are off to a 2-1 start with Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski now at the controls. It's a good time to be in Florida for sports. Obviously, you want to make sure that this pandemic gets under control, but sports-wise, you got to feel really good about yourself. I mentioned the Heat. They're in the NBA Finals, although they're looking not so good against LeBron and Anthony Davis and the Lakers. It's a 2-0 lead for the Lakers with Game 3 tonight. By the way, good luck competing with the Sunday Night Football game. Yep. Ratings. But Lakers are looking very good right now. After Kobe's passing, which seems like eons ago, again, because of what has unfolded since then, I I believe the Lakers were my sentimental choice to win it all. So it would be nice to see them win it for the Black Mamba. So, Kobe, I hope you're enjoying the finals right now. LeBron and Anthony Davis are doing you well. You're still dearly missed, and I miss seeing you out on the court. You were truly inspirational, and I'm sure heaven is going to be enjoying your company for a long time. So I hope you're enjoying the finals there, Kobe. But it looks like, barring anything miraculous, the Lakers are in good shape to win it all this year. So we'll see if the Heat can try to at least make it a series. But I think it's only time before the Lakers get this thing wrapped up and they win it all. So that pretty much runs down the sports world for the last few weeks. I hope everyone continues to stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to follow the guidelines. Always wear a mask because that's important. That helps prevent the spread of coronavirus. Keep your social distancing, wash your hands, and also, it's very important to get your flu shot this year because we don't want to have a double demic, is what they're calling it, a twin demic, where you have the flu because it's flu season, and you also have the coronavirus that we're still dealing with. So please, if you get a chance, get your flu shot. That way you're at least immune from that, and you only have to deal with the coronavirus, which hopefully nobody else gets. So, again, send your prayers out to Donald Trump and Melania Trump and wish them well. Hopefully they can make a speedy recovery. I hope all of you stay healthy and safe, and I look forward to the next episode of Anycast. So take care, guys.